7 rings. 22,000. 8. 1 4.
All players in the monster stack freeze, please start making your way back to your tables. All players in the monster stack freeze, please make your way back to your tables, thank you.
You have oranges behind those ones there.
All players and dealers in the monster stack freeze, your blinds are 500, 1,000. 500, 1,000. 1,000 big blind easy, thank you.
Take one's all in.
Just five. Okay. Cheers.
Rightio, thanks for joining us. We are in the midst of an all-in. As soon as I jump on stream, Braden Jinx here with you. We're 3 off the money in the Dracakis Players Championship. Min cash $2.5K, $27,500 up top, plus the prestigious $12,500 Dracakis gold ring. Now just catching up with the action here. Unsure if we just lost a player or not, but we are paying top 12. Down to $1,100 buy-in this year, top 12. And yes, okay, so it's 14 left now. We're all caught up. And without having the chip stacks on the table currently, it really looks like one of Australia's greatest young talents, Gary Lynn, has nearly all of the chips in play on this table anyway. he's really going to look to leverage that coming into the money bubble.
8 fold. One fold. 2 fold. 3 fold.
So we are at 5K, 10K. So we're looking at Gary with 50 big blinds. Dipper with a little bit of Hollywood with, oh, maybe not. He's most likely got the small blind and the big blind covered. We are 2 off the money, so if you are just tuning in and you see Dipper with the 10-3-0 on the button off 22 bigs, this will be why. We are 2 off the money. Luke looks to be quite short. Yeah, he's sub 10 bigs, so Dipper's going to use 10-3 off, one of the worst hands he could possibly find to pick up chips. And that's how he does it. He'll probably show the 3 knowing... He'll show the 3 knowing Dipper. Wouldn't be the best time to do that, though. Don't want the 2 to 3 players on our left. Even the player in the big blind now, so 3 to Dipper's left. He looks extremely short too, so they don't really want to... They're going to assume Dipper's light, but they don't really want to know that. Dipper doesn't really want them to know that. Especially now we're 2 off the money. It's a 2x bubble, so we're $2,250 for our min cash. It was a freeze out the Dracakis Championships, but it's gone to a 1 re-entry, and we got 99 players for this.
4 fold. 20,000. 5 fold. 20,000. 6 folds. 7 folds. And 8 folds. Heads up.
Now, we don't know what Gary's got here, but we're going to assume he's on the wider portion of his range. We are on the bubble, as I've mentioned, so that's why Dipper's elected to flat here off around 24 with ace-jack. He's going to take a stab.
25,000.
It's an immediate fold from Gary. So he obviously hasn't connected with the board, but we are looking at him probably opening the lower portion of his range. Maybe he's just got Jack 10 there, 8, 9. He would stab, but probably looking at middling hands where he really doesn't want to give any chips to Dipper in a spot where he really wants to be able to leverage those 50 big blinds approaching hand for hand. It's been a great turnout so far here at APT. We had 202 runners in the hash and deep stack, with the man in seat 4, Dipper, taking that out for 22,500. The monster freeze over on the other side of the room today. You'll be able to see that when the camera pans in the other direction, but we'll have, it's already at 75 runners. The prize pool there approaching $40,000, and it's a Tuesday. Numbers looking really good here for APT. 99 runners in the Players' Champs. That is one of the biggest turnouts for the Players' Champs, but we'll keep in mind that it's the first year we had the single re-entry here at the Gold Coast. Gary's under the gun here with ace-10. One of the best hands he's going to be able to find in this spot.
20.
Big blind here with quite a loose defend, especially when he is covered by when he is covered by Gary. I'm not sure the 5-2 suited fits in the defending range, but I had the opportunity to play against this gentleman deep in the hash and deep stack the other day, and he really likes to put you in spots. So maybe when we take all that into consideration, Gary just flopping the world here with an up flush draw. Just tell, we already know, and he shows the ace of clubs, we already know how much of a prodigious talent Gary Lynn is, but he's even showing there, you know, we want to do a lot of small betting on these monotone boards, no matter what our hand is. He just happens to have the ace of clubs. He goes 11 into 55 is basically perfect, but he's been playing perfect for a long time. He's been in really big spots. Obviously, that WPT final table that had over $1 million up top was one of the biggest spots that he'd ever been in, but he's looking to add another $27,500 to his collection of cashes over the last 12 months. Chat a little active early. Brad's asking who's in the commentary. Thanks for the compliment there. Good to know, good to hear from someone that knows a little about the game. We've got, my name is Braden Jinx. I'm in here just for myself to start. Commentating on one of my favourite tournaments, the Players' Champs. I'm a really, really proud winner of the tournament. I love this tournament. It's a really great, structured, prestigious tournament that a lot of people really put in their calendar to be able to win. That $12,500 ring is really something players want to have in their collection. We've always had around 25 to 35k, even up to 40k up top in this. 99 runners, 12 pay. This is definitely one of my favourite tournaments on the schedule, and Gary Lynn looks like he's in prime place to take home that ring. We'll try and get the payouts up on screen for you, but I can give you a basic rundown. We're 14 left. 12 pay, our min cash is 2,250, and it's 25,500 up top. And don't forget the 12.5k gold Dracakis Players Championship ring. So the value of the victor will be around $40,000, and we are 2 off the money. Interesting spot here. Luke's taken the King 8 suited for 10 from the cutoff. Perfectly fine, but we've got a decision here with the 5s. We can definitely look him up. 55 deep. And he didn't really think about it too long. We put the 5s in the middle. And this is what we like to call a little bit of a fake flip. 2 overs versus the pocket 5s. And we will be entering hand for hand if we get an elimination here. But it's a king high board, so we'll likely keep going. We're down to 1 out. They never come, you know that. A pair of kings will double up to 22 big blinds. Got a little bit of playability now from Luke.
Thank you.
Just trying to get a gauge of where we're at on the other table. It looks like there's some really... quite a few short stacks there as well. We're probably looking at around 4 stacks, sub 10 big blinds. So maybe we could be reaching the hand-to-hand portion of the tournament quite quickly. Yeah, a couple of audio issues as we've started. It's our first stream for the week, so just bear with us a little until we get them sorted.
Two fault. Suit 3 raise, 22,000. Five. Three plays. Four checks. Six checks. And three checks. Four checks. Five checks.
Players and dealers in the lockout.
2 bets, 25,000. And full call. Jack 25.
Rightio, we are back trying to sort out in our infancy here, setting everything up, but we'll try and work out those audio wishes for you. Doesn't look like we missed too much. Still two off the money.
Whoa, okay.
Eric here with a whole lot of hand from the small blind. And unless Luke, who's in the big, won a hand whilst we were trying to sort out those issues, I dare say he's covered. He still is. And Eric will get that one through. The chat's been a little chirpy. We've only jumped on, copping it a little bit, but Josh is asking, the great Josh Barbara, winner of the APL main event up here only a month ago, he's asking me if Dipper will be hard to stop, and I think that's probably one of the understatements of the century. When Dipper's rocking and rolling, he's nearly impossible to stop. He's won every hand since I've jumped on stream, and he won every hand against me heads up yesterday in the Hashem Deep Stack, which he took down for 22,000. I think I quoted at the final table, if my own mother's life depended on me beating Dipper in a hand, it wouldn't end well. Because when he's rocking and rolling, Dipper, he is nearly impossible. And we even look here, he's just going to take 10-8 off to the streets. But if you are just tuning in, he's going to have the button, small blind and big blind all covered. And we are 2 off the money. So we did see Dipper take 10-3 off from the button a couple of orbits prior. And Eric wouldn't have seen that on stream just yet. Otherwise, he'd nearly take the ace-3 suited here, you'd think. But Dipper really likes, we interviewed him on the break and he had a frustrating run of seconds, but seconds in really big events, second in the 5K for around 100 to 120,000. And that frustrated him. He's a competitive beast. He's a winner. And he's changed his style just a little bit to be able to leverage a really big stack on final tables. I felt the full brunt of that last night. And so are the players here in the Players' Championship. The interesting spot here, we've got Dipper chooses a half pot size and we can't fold just yet if we're going to choose to call a6 here versus Dipper and not jam. Especially with the ace of diamonds working. A hand is good a lot of the time, especially when we know Dipper's took the 10-3-0 from the button previously. We just can't fold a6 here, so we'll see how Luke proceeds. He's in agreement, and we'll see a turn. This will be interesting to see if Dipper chooses to barrel. He's got the 10 of diamonds working. His hand has his hand has no showdown value, but I'd be surprised if Dipper didn't have another crack at this pot. He's gone half pot again. So we've got half pot, half pot. Which is going to put Luke in a precarious position for a third of his stack. We know a hand can still be good sometimes versus Dipper. We have the nut flush draw working. But it is for a third of his stack and he's 2 off the money. That's just ugly. The full force of the Great Dipper on show there. He's got his 10 of diamonds working. He knows he can't show down his hand. He doesn't want to check back. He's really forcing these 3 stacks to his left on the bubble into submission. I'm unsure what our best play is there long term with the ace-6. We know that 6 dangler really doesn't perform well as a shove. We just have to call and take it to the streets, but it's really hard to fold that. We can't fold the flop. We can never fold the flop. It's really hard to fold that turn, but we are 2 off the money. It does change things. We'll see Gary open here. He's 55 deep. He's got everyone covered, and he folds. So shows you what I know. Surprised to see that might be a little function of potentially the big blind having a similar stack, but I'm not sure he does. He might be around the 300k. And we've got a few hands intertwining here, I believe. A few questions in the chat about the buy-in and the payouts. I know we've just gone up. People are going to be tuning in. So if you have been with us from the start, I'm not trying to sound too monotonous, but you know, as we've gone up, there's going to be more people tuning in, interested into where we are at in the tournament. So we've got 14 left. You'll be able to see that in the top right-hand corner for the entirety of our streams for the rest of the week. We'll try and get the payouts up for you, but I can give you a very small rundown of the position that we're in. We're 2 off the money. And our buy-in for the Players' Championship this year is down to $1,100. And top 12 pay. That mean cash is going to be $2,250, and up top is $27,500. And don't forget that $12,500 Dracakis Players' Championship ring. So around $40 worth of value with a $27,000 cash component. It's a tournament a lot of players love to win. And Eric, after folding the ace-3 suited before versus Dippers Open, has decided to take ace-jack to the streets here for 14. And Dipper does have a decision on his hands. I'm not sure if we're going to be jamming those smaller pairs in this spot, so which takes out a lot of hands in our opponent's range in which we dominate. We don't like that in the long run. So Dipper's just basically praying that Eric's got ace-queen or above. He's found the bottom of a jam here, I believe, in ace-jack, and Dipper's going to put the call in. Goodness me. If it's anything like yesterday, I haven't seen Dipper lose a flip in 5 months, so I'm not sure it's looking too good for Eric. Yeah, seven smack bang in the kitchen for Dipper, and he's turned Eric dead. If anyone wants to know what it's like playing with Dipper, that run out explained it all. Just the king 7-3 rainbow. Eric's got no backdoor flush draw. He's basically completely dead. And there was about 20 blokes in the Joe Hasham deep stack in the last 2 days that felt the same wrath. I interviewed Dipper on the break, and he just lost a big pot, but he made some time for us. Talked us through his strategy. He's gone back after the break, and he's spun up a really short stack into piles on the bubble. And we're going to see him, you know, he had 22 big blinds, 2 off the money, and he was opening 10-3 from the button. So Lord knows what he's going to open now, but we could be looking at some 90 to 95% of hands opening here once Gary folds. Dipper talked to us about his frustration in coming second in the Players' Champs last year. He really wants that ring. He's sure he won't mind. He doesn't really care about the money. He's here to compete. He's a winner. He loves to win. He loves to put his opponents in spots. And here, unfortunately, going to hear a lot of me talking because we're going to be hand for hand. Luckily, we've only got 2 tables left, so hopefully we won't have too many breaks in between hands, but we'll try and make this as entertaining as possible. Any players that are tuning in will know that hand for hand can be quite boring even when you're in the tournament, let alone watching it. So we'll do our best. What we might do to get us through this hand-for-hand play so you don't get bored of my monotonous tones, Dipper is very vocal at the table usually. He loves talking about hands, so we might even be able to put the sound up on the table as they start talking amongst each other. It is a part of a tournament that we don't see a lot of action. Here Dipper goes again. You'll hear the players talking about the stream. Players aren't allowed to view the stream whilst they're at the table. They can get information, obviously, from other players, people sitting at home, even people that are on the rail here. But with that 30-minute delay, really protects the integrity of the game, which is important. We want to bring as much good content to you as we can here. But it's going to be slow and steady here for a while, as we are 1 off the money in the Dracakis Players Championship. You And keep the comments coming. Chat's been quite lively across all streams. Don't forget, we're on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Now, we will circle back. A couple of comments coming in about Dipper raising the 10-8 off from the cutoff. Big blind defending with ace-6 with the ace of diamonds. It is an interesting hand. Got a few questions asking why we call there on the flop and fold the turn when we've turned that nut flush draw. We've turned the equity that we want. Definitely could be a function of the player in the big blind. We are calling for a third of our stack. At that point, we had 14 left. So we are calling with for a third of our stack on the turn with a flush draw only. And if we decide that our ace high is no good, because there are a lot of times when Dipper has the range that we know that he does, we have a minimum defense frequency in the big blind. This hand certainly qualifies as a hand that we just have to defend basically no matter what. But it's really difficult when, even though we turn the amount of equity that we do, the big blind really has to just decide if his ace high could be good. And if it's not, it's a really difficult position to call, miss our flush draw, and go into hand for hand with 10 big blinds. So he's just decided to fold. I'm not sure we can jam the turn. We definitely, we can start looking to jam our ace-x hands pre, but ace-6, ace-7 specifically really don't play well as jams there in the long run. So it's really good to be able to just defend, but Dipper just puts you in all these spots, and I think if we decide our ace high is no good, maybe it's okay to be able to fold the turn, because basically no matter what the river is, Dipper's going to put us all in. Obviously just a function of where we are at that stage in the tournament with our min cash coming up in 2 spots time. He's just decided to fold the turn and move on, and he proceeds with 15 big blinds into the bubble. We really do have to think about what Dipper's representing with his half pot sizing. He does have a lot of, from memory, the term was the King of Diamonds. He does have a lot of King X in his range, so really good card for him to represent. And he has the 10 of Diamonds working as well, so he just leveraged his stack and pressure, and he got the fold. Now, it may not look like it with our hand selection, but no, Gary's going to go for the check. I find this interesting. We want to take the lower suited portions of our range into a spot, blind v blind, when we cover, especially when we cover stacks on the bubble of a tournament, which is why you're going to see Gary choose 8-2 suited here. Surprised a little to not see him probe the King 7-9-2 spade. We don't get to the flop with a worse hand than 8-2 suited, and he has raised and got the defend from the big blind. Usually think we'd see a bet there from Gary, but he's one of the very, very good young talents of Australian poker. He'll know more than me why he's decided to check fold there. But if you see, if you are just tuning in and you see Dipper with the 10-3 off from the button, or Gary raising up the 8-2 suited from the small blind, just to reiterate, we are one off the money in hand for hand, trying to get you through this slower stage of the tournament where we have to wait for the other table to finish their hand before we can proceed. Now, thankfully, everyone at home just doesn't have to listen to me waffle on. We're going to have, throughout the week, we're going to try and bring as many interesting people, guests, players. I can't wait to have Dipper up here with us. He's an entertaining man. But throughout the week, you're going to be here majorly from me. But bringing in now Harvey Silver, and we've been on the commentary box for a couple of times for some really long stints. We're on day one. How are we feeling?
Well, I didn't even know you were on, so that's how well I'm feeling. G'day, everyone. Hope you're enjoying the stream. We'll be hearing a fair bit of me too. Hopefully, the two of us bouncing off each other a little bit, Braden.
Yep.
But this is one of those, I'm not going to say tedious times in a tournament, but it certainly drags out when you're on the money bubble and no one wants to walk away without anything, do they?
No. I mean, tedious might be the word for it. It's tedious when you're on the bubble and you're playing, let alone sitting home watching it. So we'll try and keep it as entertaining for you as possible.
We have seen our friend Dipper chip up. He was pretty short.
I was just
when
saying,
we chatted outside.
I was just saying, I was just telling the viewers that we grabbed him for an interview. And even though he had just lost a big pot, he wasn't happy. He was Dipper. He was more than happy to talk to us and run us through his strategy. And he's 10x'd his stack basically since that interview. So hopefully we've had a little something to do with that.
I'm sure you've told everybody that he did win the Hashem Deep Stack. Took it away from you.
Yes,
and,
I did. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that was the story I heard. You were way ahead in chips, but he's pretty dogged and he's pretty fearless too, isn't he?
Yes. So I did mention that Dipper did win the Joe Hashem Deep Stack yesterday for the 22,000. Unfortunately, there had to be a runner-up, and that was me.
Yep.
And I just couldn't beat him. I just couldn't beat him in a hand. He put me in. He put me in two just crazy spots that I don't think I could play. I could play another 2 million hands online, I think, for the next couple of years, and I won't be in the spots that Dipper put me in. But you've got to, as we wake up with aces on the button on the bubble here for Kane. But as Dipper alluded to us on the break, he was really frustrated with the run of he had some very big seconds, for big scores, but he's not here for the money. He's a competitor.
Yep.
He wants to win, and his strategy is to build up a big stack to be able to put people in their place, and I was certainly put in mine.
And thankfully, he celebrated last night by buying a few people dinner here at the Sharks. There was I feel it was surf and turf. I can tell you that because I was one of the people that he bought dinner for, which was very nice. Beautiful fillet steak with the prawn topping.
I have heard some stories from... This is how you know how generous someone is. The stories come from other people. The stories don't come from the person.
Yep.
The stories come from everyone else that said, Dipper did this, Dipper did that. When he won at the WPT, I'm fairly sure the bar was shouted and no expense was spared. And I do, I'll circle around to it in a second, but I do have a great story about him that was told to me by someone else as well. But he's one of the most generous, good people in poker, and which is, as I mentioned, I just mentioned before you come on stream, Harvey, that Dipper did take the 10-3-0 on the button. And if you are just tuning in, there is a reason for this. We've got both blinds covered, and you don't want to walk away with no money. So he's leveraging that pressure, and he's just going to have to call here, unfortunately. Let's just say you're in good shape, Dipper says. He doesn't know how much bad... Oh, no, I thought he had 4-3.
4-2, two live cards.
35%,
could be worse.
35% equity for Dippers, usually around 50.
There's the ace. No, that's his ace 3. So he did, yes, he did shout dinner last night. All those generosity stories you've heard are very true, and we'll look forward to bringing your little chat with him onto the stream a little bit later. Does look like he's probably going to be hanging around for a while now after it looked like he may not last too long. He was on a very short stack earlier. It is Luke's life on the line here, though. He's in good shape.
Just flops the open-ended straight draw,
last
and he's got his
card
pair
here,
draw
but
too.
no, he's all right.
No.
Stays alive. But it was not a great flop.
No, you're
Luke,
definitely
was it?
sweating there with the ace-3.
I'm sure you've been telling everyone how great it is down here, how great the room looks. We've got a few events going on at the moment. If you are in the Goldie, Brisbane area, jump in the car, get down here to Southport Sharks, play some poker. It's a really, really good spot. It's been set up terrifically. If you haven't been to the Sharks, wow, what a club this is here too, as well as the poker room. But just the club itself, the restaurants, and if you like your poker machines, there's a gazillion of those outside as well. And
Starting with the Sharks specifically, I've travelled around Australia consistently for the last 2 years and played in just about I've played in venues that you don't even want to know exist, in places that you may have never even heard of. Southport Sharks is just by far one of the best venues that you can play in. The facilities are fantastic. The room here is great. The service, the bar staff are unbelievable. And obviously we're here. It's the Southport Sharks do play in the quaffle up here. And obviously, if you do like a slap on the pokies, there's plenty of that here for you. But the food's great.
Yep.
Venue's great. Couldn't speak highly enough of the Sharks. But the way APT have run this series so far, such a professionally run series. We had 202 runners in the Joe Hasham deep stack on a Sunday. We got the players champs here. I got 99 runners for a 1K over a Monday and a Tuesday. It only bodes well for the type of numbers we're looking at towards the end of the week.
Yeah, it's definitely a build here. It builds towards the end of the week and the weekend, so we do expect to see huge numbers, but pretty busy out on the floor. I mean, we're down to the last 13 of this event, but there's two other events going at the moment, and both with, I think both those events have over 100 players in them.
Yeah, I think last I looked at our deep freeze, I think is a 550, and that's got at 80, which means we're looking at a prize pool of around 40K as a single day event here on a Tuesday. It's a really, really good turnout.
Should raise and a call here. Dipper with the pair of sixes. Kane's got the ace queen suited.
Depending on what our flop is, I don't think, I think we'll just see a C-bet and a fold here from Dipper. He can be sticky, but he knows he's in a position where he really doesn't want to start losing chips to Kane. He wants to be able to keep this 40 to 35 big blind stack to be able to leverage the stacks on his left, who he's all got covered. So I don't think we'll see Dipper sticking around, but I've seen him stick around with the worse. Just in the position he's in, I think that surprised if he peeled one off here, especially to this half pot size. Probably a little bit bigger than what we would usually be accustomed to, but God, was I wrong? Dipper's he's inevitable.
So you've now done the cardinal sin. You've predicted what every other player would do except for Dipper.
Goodness me.
It's another scary card for him, though.
Now he's been checked too. If he turns this into a bluff and wins the hand, I'm dead set going to give. If I get seated at Dipper's table, I'll just leave. the funny thing about me and Dipper going heads up last night is that on day one, we played together from the start, hand one of the tournament, right until we bagged up with 12 left, right from the beginning.
That's
and
unusual, isn't it?
It's very unusual. We were on each other's left and right. Dipper's going to opt to check back here. I mean, we could.
Yeah,
we have. Look, we've got the 6 of diamonds working with our 6. This could be a reason that Dipper we can't show our hand down. We basically
Well,
always
he's got
go
a bet now, doesn't he? I mean, he's been checked to again. He's
it's just usually I think we would see a bluff here, but
seeing how Dipper's played, it's almost certain he's betting here, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I thought if there's any reason for him not to bet, it's that he doesn't want to be able to lose really important chips that he can leverage in other spots at this particular stage of the tournament. But he's chosen a size in which if we got here with some type of jack, we never have jack 10 in this spot because we would have bet the turn. I'm trying to think of what other jacks we may have that have called this raise pre. Queen jack suited. There's only 2 combos left of that in Kane's mind.
He's not representing a flush in any way, Dipper here?
No, potentially. Yeah, potentially. We've got the 6 of diamonds working, but he's chosen a size in which he's really put Kane in the blender.
Yeah, he's going to get it too, isn't he?
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Dipper,
Shows the Queen.
Dipper is inevitable. Dipper is inevitable. He peels 6s on Queen 9-5 versus Ace Queen and finds a way to win the hand. That'll do me.
You're out.
I'm out. I'm not going to not play anymore. That will do me. He is unbelievable. I think there are some flush draws that we don't have. I'm trying with the diamonds we had on that specific board. We don't get to the river with too many flushes, so we maybe could have peeled 6-7 of diamonds on Queen 9-5, but I'm not sure Dipper peels that hand pre in the positions that we were in. He could. I'm not. I've tried to predict twice what Dipper's done. He's done the exact opposite, and that's probably why he beat me heads up yesterday.
Yes. Has he gone to showdown a couple of times here and shown strength that the other players would think potentially he has got it?
No,
or he just hasn't gone to showdown at all?
He's had 10-3-0 off. He's had 10-3 on the button.
Okay.
You got to remember too, he just had to show down 4 deuce off suit that he raised.
That's also true, isn't it?
That's also true. So, I think we're more repping a hand in which contains a jack that we get to the river with that doesn't contain a diamond. It's hard to think about too because we never have jack 10, and the only combos of that we have are jack 10 suited. So that's 4 combos of jacks gone. So we basically only get to the river with queen jack and king jack, and so we've really got to think about, if we're sitting there with ace queen without a diamond, we've got ace queen of hearts. What can we beat? And if you really have a think about how those ranges are constructed there, we never really get to Dipper's never value betting a king. He doesn't get to the river with too many flushes. And we basically only get there with a very small combination of hands that contain a jack in them. So Dipper just finds the worst hand he can possibly have there on the river and bluffs with it. And he had 6s on Queen 9-5 versus Ace Queen and found a way to win. Maybe we just give him the ring now. I'm not sure.
Right. I don't think he's quite there yet, but some big stacks to negotiate. But he's my sort of poker player. I do have to be honest. And that's unpredictable. And there's times where Dipper will just sit there and not play. I mean, he's not active all the time. He's not bluffing all the time. So. But he certainly is unpredictable.
I mean, unpredictable is an understatement. Yeah. But as we spoke to him in that interview on the break, he has his basic unpredictable strategy, but he kept coming. He had a lot of those big seconds. and you know, he's really opened up to be able to get that stack on the final table, which is nearly impossible to run over. I think when we were heads up last night, I had to double up 5 times for us to be even. That's how many chips he had.
It's crazy, isn't it? So it looks like we've got an all-in.
Now look,
Is it an all-in or?
yeah, well, he's raised with 1K behind.
Okay. 1K.
Which is not really something we'd tend to do on hand for hand. We'd be more closing in on, you know, 2 or 3 off the money, but it's either or really. And Luke was down to 3.5 big blinds. I think he was all in for around 40K. And he's looking at the triple up here, back up to 150. Luke's had some good scores recently. Loves playing. Regular around the circuit. Surprised we haven't seen a lot from Gary. One of the most prestigious talents we've got here in Australia. You know, we've talked about that huge WPT final table that, you know, he'd probably like to have over again. We were looking at over $1 million up top, and, you know, we don't get in those spots too often, but Gary really likes to go for it. He went for it then, and we haven't seen a lot of him, especially when he's had everyone covered. So we're looking for him to open up a little more. I mean, he folded Queen to no under the gun 6-handed with everyone covered. I found that a little surprising. But now Dipper's got him covered. So as I've just noticed there with the 460K, maybe we won't be seeing Gary open up as much as we thought maybe a half an hour ago.
Yeah, Dipper spikes the queen on the flop.
Now, Luke raised from the hijack off 12 with pocket twos is probably more on the ambitious side. You know, we're raising into a player that's defending nearly 80% of hands. And those low pairs, they really just don't perform well in an ICM scenario such as this. We're better off just jamming. We've got 10. We would have had 10 big blinds there with twos from the hijack. We just can't raise there. We have to jam. We have to rip her in, or as a comment comes in, just about as I'm explaining
That's
what the
exactly
concept
what you were
was
saying.
explaining.
Yeah, you go.
I think that the more you start to learn and play poker, you'll find that these low pairs really don't perform well in ICM. Absolutely nothing wrong with a jam there with pocket twos. It's making money nearly always, but it's also okay to fold these low pairs as well. We'd rather jam a hand like ace-2 suited. It blocks the call. It blocks hands that our opponent can call with. But you know, that play there is probably one he would like to have over, I guess, is something that I could say. It's just not something we can't give up any portion of our stack here, one off the money with these low pairs. A ripper in or fold, either way. Both plays are still making money in the long run, but you know, that's probably one we'd like to have back. You know, the comment that came in, and as I was explaining that scenario, was, you know, how do we feel about those 2 to 5s raising off 10 bigs? I mean, 5s is just too much of a hand. We just jam and print money there all day. 4s from the hijack into Dipper. The problem is Dipper can look. I don't know if he's played a lot with Dipper, but Dipper can look us up there with King Queen, King Jack. He wouldn't even think twice about it. I don't mind a fold jamming into Dipper specifically. But, you know, we can't keep passing up on spots like this either. So it's just up to what he's feeling at the time. But the one thing we can't do is raise.
So they're hopping up there because there's been an all-in on the other table. I'm just going to see if we're going to lose that money bubble player. Doesn't looked like it. Some interesting stuff going on outside as well. You're probably hearing our TDs, and one of the things that does happen on the floor is a flip, what they call a flip here. And this is an opportunity to win your way into one of the tournaments without actually playing a satellite. You put your money in, and when they get a full table of people who've put their money in, they basically just flip the cards over, play out a hand face up, and whoever's got the best hand wins their way into a tournament. It's a pretty good way of getting in. A flip, yeah, pretty good way of getting in without playing a whole satellite, isn't it?
Well, the good thing about them is they're rake free. You don't have to play. You don't have to pay rake. So if you're looking for a little bit of a gamble, get in. I've actually won a Centurion, so APL, a 2.5K flip into the APL Millions 2.5K. So if you look at it like that, $250 in, win the flip, it's 200K up top. It would be one of the greatest ROIs in the history of poker.
Yeah.
But they run frequently. A lot of people want to gamble their way into these events. And you'll have, I think, Dipper bought 3 seats into a flip yesterday when I was playing with him as well. Some people just want the sweat and sell the ticket.
Yep. There are, of course, a lot of satellites running here too, so you can come down and play for as little as $60, $80, win your way through a satellite, get into a $1,100 event, our big $1,500, which starts tomorrow. So, yeah, you don't have to just pay your way in. You can work your way through a satellite, which is a lot of fun. I went over and satellited into a big event in Vegas at the World Series.
Did you really?
Yeah, that was a hell of a lot of fun, but I couldn't stay and play the event because it was another 2 weeks away.
Oh, you're kidding.
So I just couldn't stay. Another 2 weeks in Vegas. I would have come home in a box. So I just cashed in the... I cashed it in. It was still pretty good. It was...
Vegas
it was
does claim the best of us.
5,000 US event.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, it was pretty
about
cool.
$8,000 Australian.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to do that. Got in 250 people playing the satellite, and I got through the last 25, and they just stopped it. That was it. They said, 25,
Well done.
you get through. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, couldn't stay. Would have loved to have, but just couldn't stay. I mean, I know. Seriously, I'm coming home in a box if I stay for 2 weeks in Vegas.
My biggest stint in Vegas is 3 weeks, and I haven't been back. And it was in the middle of those 3 weeks was a Bucks party for one of my best mates.
Great. At least you had an excuse.
Which goes for a week. You want to throw some poker in there? It's definitely large scale. And a very quick shout out to one of Australia's best, Cooper Feltham. Most of the people that are tuning into the stream now would have been tuning into the WSOP circuit this morning. Cooper is a Goliath winner here for the 2.5. He won the 2.5K here for around 60 to 70,000. And if anyone was tuning in this morning, you would have seen Cooper come third for an amazing $150,000 US. So we're looking at around 230, 240
Yep.
Australian. You know, coverage of the WSOP circuit's amazing. It was so good to see an Australian there playing, an APT champion as well. He's got a lot of APT titles, including that Goliath. So shout out to Cooper Feltham for representing Australia this morning. Everyone was tuning in. Everyone was watching. GG's on the great run.
Good on him. Well done. Not that maybe as massive a surprise as people may think. As I say, I was in Vegas last year during the World Series and queuing up to buy into an event or a couple of events, and don't think it's, because it's the WSOP that it's that well organised. There's 100-metre long queues to buy into. It's terrible. It's actually terrible. But, the number of people you just hear in the queue, there you go, mate. There's so many Australians over there playing.
A local player who actually prior to playing poker, Dave Sabefsi, has had a lot of great results in the last 12 months. He final tabled a WSOP event and, had a shot at a bracelet. And one of Dave's quotes from that year, it was the World Series of Queues.
Yep.
That wasn't the World Series of Poker. It was the World Series of queuing up. You spent more time in the queue than you did playing.
And you wouldn't believe it in this, this age where you really should just be able to go into an app and get your ticket. And
absolutely,
they've got all those ATM things around. Those little, sign up sort of booths, but you can't actually get your playing ticket out of it. It's. Yeah, I was really surprised. I had the added problem of not actually knowing what I was doing, so you get in the wrong queue when you're doing that. So.
Half of the people playing, half of the Americans and some people just play at their local pubs and want to go in and flick the World Series of Poker in the same position as you. Wouldn't have been there before.
Yeah, when I
all in a call here.
Oh, okay. So you can hear in the background there's another flip going on. They're happening all the time, those flips. So it's pretty popular here, Braden, the flip. But this is far more than just a flip. This is an all-in call.
So just to recap here, Gary's raised from the hijack, and Luke has decided that King Queen's good enough to send the troops in for around 7 big blinds. I don't blame him. Gary's going to be taking a lot of spots with hands that are worse than King Queen and at worst are flipping with. But, there is an argument. I know it sounds a little strange. There is an argument to just call here off 7 and see a flop on the stone bubble, but it's also good enough here, I think, to take Gary to the streets, and we're off to the races.
So, for those who don't watch poker streams that often, a bit of information on there, and at this point, the important information is those percentages. So it's basically a coin flip here. You've got 2 overcards with the King Queen against the pair of 10s, 48%, 52%. What that means is that as the cards come out, it's as likely that a king or a queen won't appear, or cards to help make a straight for Luke. So Gary just slightly ahead before we go to the flop. And it looks like his 10's held there, I'd say.
Did we see a run out?
I think we didn't see the run out, but it looks like...
Well, Luke's got 15 big blinds, so he's obviously doubled.
Yep.
And he's still sitting at the table, so we can confirm the...
Yep. So
King,
no elimination there. So the King Queen won that one. Is that?
Yes.
Yep. Being told a queen came out on the flop, so
okay.
That's what happened there. Unfortunately, we missed that one. That's going to happen every so often on the stream. Do apologise in advance that because this isn't. It's all automated. This system. We move around the cameras on the basis of the information that we're getting from the dealer. The cards, of course, have a chip inside them, so there's no lifting up of cards and showing them to a camera and someone then inputting the cards on the screen for you. It's all very high tech. I actually love the progression that we've seen of the televised poker and moving from the little camera behind.
This is amazing. This is amazing. You've brought that up because actually we're in a
again. We've got a hand, haven't we?
I mean, I wouldn't blame Luke for going with this, but he's going to find the fold. They're both their names are Luke, but Luke Irving should be you know, jamming all pairs, all ace-X, low-suited ace-X, where ace-8 suited performs pretty well there, especially when we have that player covered, but he's chosen to fold. Don't mind it. But so going back to what you were saying, when the stream ended this morning, Cooper's stream ended this morning, a YouTube clip popped on afterwards, and it was an old WPT final table, and they were the first ever production that had the camera that would
The
look
whole
at the card.
camera, they called it.
Yeah.
Yep.
The whole cards.
Yep.
So Mike Sexton's idea was that, you know, poker can be boring when we don't know what's going on. You know, how much more interesting was the game when Dipper won with sixes on Queen 9-5 versus Ace Queen? We knew exactly what we know.
Of course.
You know, that was a great hand to be able to commentate. Luke's going to send the 10s here for sure. And I'd be surprised if, we saw Dipper call off 13 bigs with 7s to knock out Eric.
If there's no one else in here, he's calling.
Yeah. If we do call here,
It's Dipper.
it is, but he's also clever enough to know that if we call and lose, we lose our chip lead on the bubble.
That's also true, isn't
And
it?
Luke Irving has probably showed on the bubble he's a little on the tighter side. He's jamming. He's not jamming small pairs. As I was explaining in the 7s hand, you know, Dipper's got to be clever enough here to know that we dominate no hands at all. So we're not up
True.
against
Even if he's
fives.
got 2 overs, he's
It's
still
always
a
a flip.
coin flip.
I
Yep,
love this
good.
fold.
Well done. Yep.
So the difference before was that the ratios of how the stacks worked when he called off the 7s is a lot different now. Let's just say Dipper calls and loses. We can see that we're now back to where Gary's stack and Kane, around where Kane is as well. So he loses a little bit of that leverage. Yep. And when you combine that with the fact we dominate 0 hands, I like the fold there from Dipper.
True.
So we see Dipper do all these funky stuff, but we also see him doing plays here that I really love, you know, being able to fold there and not being the Dipper that we think he is.
Yep.
That was just more of a clever play.
And us being able to see that, I mean, again, just
Going back to
to
that.
what you were talking about, it's been the biggest innovation in poker, really, was you know, the whole card cam, and then they progressed through to little windows, so you had to put your cards over the window, and the camera was underneath.
It's just it seems
now,
such a simple
now we've
thought.
got to have. I mean,
This.
how amazing is this? You
Yeah.
know, there's a chip inside the card, and no one's got to show the card to any camera. The table picks it up.
Yeah.
And
RFID technology, we call it.
And part of the RFID technology is also the cameras that we've got set up. So we don't have someone in here switching the camera every second to the next play. This is all part of the RFID. If we're looking at Dipper, we've got Dipper's cards up on the screen. We know that the camera automatically switches to Dipper. And
Yep.
so it's great stuff for us. Do apologise that obviously at times it'll lag,
But it's an automated
it's
system.
an automated system. So when we didn't see that flop before, that's just the automated system just stalled for a little while, and
Yeah.
it takes a little while to catch up.
Such a simple thought, but, you know, that idea that Mike Sexton had, by the way, his autobiography, he's passed away now, but his autobiography talks about this. This idea that he's had to just have the camera. The only way he was going to commentate for WPT back when those streams started is if we had those whole cards, we had those camera behind the cards. It's his innovation. It's completely changed the way that we consume poker. We wouldn't be sitting here today if he didn't. Someone would have come out with that idea in time. He really was a pioneer of being able to live stream televised poker.
Very much so. And, you know, Tony Hashem and the team at APT, you know, are putting a lot into this from our perspective. I mean, we'd love to show everyone the setup back here, but it's pretty full on. I mean, we've got a full on, you know, TV studio almost out the back here.
I walked in here for the first time today, and I can say that absolutely no expense has been spared. So hopefully that comes across in the quality of the of the commentary.
Well, yeah, the commentary.
Of the production, not the commentary, sorry.
We're doing our
That
best.
too as well. That
we
too
have
as
we
well.
have one legend and one bloke is just trying to hold everything together, and you can figure out which one's which. All right. So, no, you're doing a great job, mate. I'm just here to maybe open it up a little bit more to the less initiated. You know, you're going to tell us a lot about how you play and why players are thinking that way, and I suppose, you know, what we really want to get across to everyone is how welcoming it is on the AP team, particularly here at the Sharks. Come down, even if you're a novice, even if you've only played a bit of pub poker, come down. You know, no one's going to make you feel like an idiot. No one's going to make you feel unwelcome. In fact, trying to grow this community as much as anything. And even if you come down and just stand on the rail and have a look how people play.
Absolutely.
You know,
and for that type of player that you're talking about, we've got the $150 Abyss freeze-out coming up on Thursday. Lord knows how many runners that's going to get, but we've got a dealer dealt 150, and even our mini main, if you want to have a crack at that, we'd be looking at $15,000 to $20,000 up top as a 50K guarantee.
All right, we're big here. We are going to come back to that. We do want to get you to come down for your $150, but there is a lot on the line right here. It's a pretty safe flop for the ace-queen.
What was the action here? There's a lot of big blinds have gone in. It's going to be a chop.
It's a chop. So
has Gary raised the button and Kane just jammed 25 bigs with ace-queen? Is that what's happened?
What it looked like.
Players, we'll just give you a little bit from the players there. They've lamenting the chop pot. If we still wouldn't have been in the money there, but Gary would have been left very short. You know, in theory, I'm going to presume Gary raised the button and the small blind jam 25. Unfortunately, it's one of those spots where we have to look down at our hand and put the chips in, because ace-10 should dominate a lot of those hands that are jamming. I'm not sure that's so much the case in live fields, but Gary's such a studied player. He knows that in the long run he's going to have to call with ace-10 and take a spot where his hand dominates a lot of the hands that should be shoving out of the small blind. But for 25 in a live field with a big blind covered, maybe that was a spot there where we could bin. But, you know, I think I haven't played a lot with the gentleman in the small blind, I believe, but, you know, at chip EV, we've got a print snap call, but, you know, Gary doesn't play like that. Gary's a bit of a robot, and he's seen a hand that he knows he has to defend. But I think, you know, if we make some adjustments for the spot we're in, we could find a fold there. That's a flop I'm sure he would have liked. But
all right, now here's some interest as well. We've got the trip 10s, and we've got a flush draw.
This has just gone small blind call, and Luke's check defended the, and the flop's gone check.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have really seen blood here, but now the flop's gone check. I can't.
And a pretty small bet on the turn here too, 24K. Is this a re-raise from Luke?
I don't like commentating on these spots when I'd never bet. You know, we probably.
Well, you wouldn't have played it like this, so it's hard to commentate it.
I think me and my friends always joke. You know, Dylan Wayne, he's one of the best players in the country. He's like, oh, people ask me about hands, and I'm like, I don't know what to say. I wouldn't have been in this spot.
That's right.
You know, we can't. Even though we want to have to check back for deception in some spots, 10-9-0 and 10-10-5 blind v blind with a flush draw out there. We do have the 9 of hearts working, but we've got to find some bets because we need to have some bluffs. And once Dipper calls a small blind and checks, we can start finding hands to barrel like backdoor clubs, even our flush draws. So we've got to bet our 10x too. We want to start building the pot to be able to get our chips in on the river. So he has decided to raise. Now, here's the problem, is that basically when we raise here, we nearly always have a 10. You know, it's very, we should have some bluffs here, but I'm not sure we're going to be finding those at a full frequency here. So that's why it's probably better to be able to bet our 10 on the flop and build the pot to be able to, you know, we have less 10s in our range once we bet the flop. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but once we raise over the turn small bet.
Oh, wow. And there's the heart.
Finds it. He's
Can you believe that? Now,
hold on,
okay, so
interesting.
what's Luke thinking here? Right, before he even bets, does Luke think that he's potentially hit the flush here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So once we've bet the all in, now that's it.
It is
Luke
all in.
Should think about this. No,
He's out. He called it.
it's all over. We're in the money.
Yep. Wow.
We've got a lot to dissect.
And didn't Differ just pick up some chips? Wow.
That's one of the most dipper hands I've seen. cracking 10 9 on 10 10 5. He always did have that flush draw, but you know, we've got a lot to dissect here. Luke's really got to have a bit more of a think about, you know, I do know we have the 9 of hearts working. It's nearly impossible to fold 3 of a kind versus Dipper, let's be honest. But once Dipper leads the turn and calls the raise, Dipper knows 100% of the time, basically, Luke has a 10.
I'd prefer you just to say, and there's another Dipper. Because it's very hard to logic that out and have a go at Luke there because...
No.
Again, I mean, he could be pushing all in, totally representing that flush. It is possible, isn't it? The way he plays...
It is, but... It is, for sure, but we bet the turn and called a raise.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Let's just say, for example, if the...
No, I totally get it. I totally get it. I mean, that story makes the most sense, no question.
Yeah. But let's just say the hand works out a little differently where, you know, Dipper bets the turn and Luke calls, and then the flush comes on the river, Dipper jams, then we snap call.
Sure.
But once that's gone bet raise... you know, we at least have to. We're on the bubble here. The way that action's played out, we've got to think about it just a little bit. I'm not saying I'd find a fold. I'd probably would have called very quickly too. But you know, we've got to have a think about the construction of our ranges once what we've seen play out from the turn onwards. But we're in the money.
Yeah, we are, and I can see this also becoming interesting. So Gary with the jacks, we're going to talk to you about how you play jacks shortly because it's one of the great discussion topics, how people play jacks. Dipper's going to love the suited connectors there because he's just running so well. So that's a perfect hand for him to see just after he's knocked somebody out.
Dipper's got 700K. When we interviewed him on the break, he had about 40, and it wasn't that long ago.
And he hits his 9.
Oh, I mean, Dipper's just going to win this hand, I guess.
Well, he's still behind though, but the way he plays... Now, so is that a good card for him or a bad card? This is interesting for me because I would say that's a terrible card for Dipper, but other people say no, that's actually a really good card for him.
This is the second range bet I've seen Gary miss. Gary's done a few things that I've seen from him. I've played and seen Gary play a lot. He's always making the right play, and you know he is a robot as we said before. But this is the second or third interesting decision from him, especially with the Jack of Spades working. You know, it's really hard to not see bet this board, and then we can just evaluate turns. As played, I wouldn't be surprised to see... Oh, actually, Dipper has some showdown value. Maybe if we had a hand like King-Queen with the King of Spades or Queen-Jack with a spade, Dipper could try and take this away, but I think this should go check-check. But Gary's, you know, he's known for really putting you in very tough spots, so check-check. Hand's too good to bluff, basically.
Okay, so now the flush does come. Potential flush comes. Is that slow down the action here? Is it check again, do you think?
I think we can... I think Gary should have a pretty safe we could value bet small. We have the Jack of Spades working, so our opponent, I'd be surprised. Yeah, so if it does, yeah,
It is
so
check.
check.
Yep.
But I'd be surprised if, Dipper checks back a flush draw there on the turn. He most likely has a 9. But you have to have a think about.
Well, it's where they are in the event. Clearly, I think that either of them are happy to take that pot at that point, aren't they?
Yeah, of course. I'm just interested to see, there's 2 or 3 range bets I've seen Gary elect to not take. Not sure what that is a function of currently, but, I think that we put ourselves in a position there for Dipper to take away the pot with a hand like King, Queen, Queen, Jack, 6, 7, unsure what the turn was there, but, after that goes back calling the flop, it's nearly always going to be check, turn, river.
Sure.
We could find a value bet on the there on the river, especially versus Dipper. We've checked our hand on the flop to control the size of the pot, not necessarily for deception, but we have a hand that's got a lot of showdown value. I'm still surprised to not see Gary bet the river there, especially with that Jack of Spades working. It blocks our opponent
All
from
right,
having dominating
there's
hands.
more
Oh,
action
no.
coming. More action coming. So, Kings for Kane,
This is just-
hijack,
It's all
Dippers
going all
going to 3-bet, and Kane is going to shove, you'd say.
Dipper size is probably a little too big here, but doesn't matter. It's going in no matter what anyway, and I would be absolutely petrified if I had Kings against Dipper. He's been running fantastic.
So
It's
the
obviously a
all-in is
standard hand.
actually the Kings as the buttons just moved, or the indicators just moved over. It's a pretty safe flop there. Still a backdoor flush, I suppose,
Backdoor
for
spades
Dipper.
working for Dipper. Backdoor straight. The turn must have been a king.
No, I think, again, we just haven't caught up. Looks like
Well, our player with the Kings.
the Kings has won it.
Yes, but he smashed.
There it
oh,
is,
no,
Queens.
Oh, so Dipper did turn some equity.
He
with
did,
that
he did
strange draw.
indeed. He did indeed. But
Those are those pots you just need to win. You can play as well as you want, but if you run, if you run Ace King into Kings with 10 left, sub 30 big blinds, you just have to lose your money. Four-handed last night, me and Dipper got tangled up with Queens versus Jacks. That allows him to turn the tables, but it doesn't. There's nothing that you can do.
no, of course not.
There's absolutely nothing that you can do. And you've got to be on the right end of them at the right time of the tournament. But this is the specialty of Dipper's play. He's built his stack up so much, he can absorb this hit. He can probably nearly absorb another one and still be okay. But that's why he's got the style that he does. I think he's still probably going to have 40 big blinds, 35 big blinds
He had
after
about,
that hand.
About 390,000, I think,
Yeah.
he had. And
I think we've lost a
yeah,
player
you can
on the
see
other table.
up the top there. There's 10
Yeah.
left, so we're one elimination away from final table. Yeah, I'm really enjoying watching this as Dipper picks up Ace King again. He's been active, but he's been active because he's getting hands. He might, depending on what, he just wants someone to have. So there's a weak ace.
Oh, dearie me, what are we doing here?
Just a call on that. And Gary on the big blind has a bit of a discount to come in and call this for 13K. Which he will do, I'd say. He does.
Not sure what we're doing here in the small blind. I did play against, is it Kleber? Is that how I pronounce that? I did play against him for the first time yesterday. And he really liked playing hands and putting him in spots, but it's just not a hand that we can proceed with here with 10 left. And
he has hit his 4 on the flop, so he's in fact 63% favourite
3 ways. Here's the problem. Let's just say, for example, Dipper has, 9s plus.
Sure.
Once we call here with ace-4, we've got our backdoor flush draw working too.
It's a pretty safe
We
card
have to
though for the...
It is, but we have to proceed no matter what. And it's gone snap, check, check here. And he's just going to take it down with the ace-4. Yeah, it's very interesting. He's decided to go this way, and he's going to be value betting. Should be choosing a small size here to target some ace highs,
Like
maybe around
45, yeah.
45. Yeah, okay. Now, I did see Dipper call someone down yesterday with queen high. So I think...
Is he going to call this? It's
Yeah,
still 15% of his stack, so...
Dipper's going to be
Well.
not
Did-
furious, but he's given the
did
smile.
call-
And there's the head shake.
Head shake.
He's still shaking his head. I think I may have reacted in a similar manner there. Dipper can't believe it. Look at him. I'm on Dipper's side there. I'm very surprised at that, how hands... Mainly because we haven't seen Kleber play too many hands. I'm not sure if that's been a function of his distribution, but it was certainly an interesting line he's taken. And Dipper's fuming.
Yeah, clearly not happy.
Yeah. Dipper should know that Kleber doesn't speak... definitely speaks a broken English. I'm not sure. He just kind of nodded at Dipper. I'm not sure if he knew what he was saying there, but...
We have lost another one on the other table too,
Oh,
mate. So we're down to 9, which is going to be our final table. This is a chance for us to have a little break, have a drink. We'll be back with the table as soon as they're ready to go.
No worries. See you then.